Oh, hi there. My name is Christy, and I'm the Children's and Youth Librarian at the Pierre Marquette District Library in Clare, Michigan. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about reading diversely, specifically reading books by African American authors or books with African or Black themes to them. This started partially because I'm reading Brown Girl Dreaming, which is a verse young adult book by Jacqueline Woodsong about her life growing up in South Carolina and New York City as a young Black girl. Each page or so is a different mini story as a poem, and they're just really beautiful. I think Jacqueline has a great talent for making you see your own childhood through someone else's. I relate to a lot of the depictions of family and childhood that she's talking about in these poems, but at the same time I get to see how her experiences were different than mine, and how being an African American girl growing up in the 60s and 70s in New York City is different than me growing up a white life in suburbia. So that's a little bit about Brown Girl Dreaming, which is what I'm currently reading. And I picked it up sort of out of an initiative that I personally want to make to start reading more diversely. And that's really why I want to make this video, just to talk about how, kind of by accident, just by picking up what publishers are promoting, lots of times I think I end up reading exclusively white authors, and I think you have to kind of really concentrate to try and get a little diversity in there. So I wanted to talk about some of my favorite books by Black authors, and then some that I'm really interested to kind of read in the future and keep you guys updated on. One of my favorite books growing up was The Watsons Go to Birmingham by Christopher Paul Curtis. If you've never read this story, it's about a family who live in Flint, Michigan. So I always related to the fact that they were from the same state as me. And they go for a visit in Birmingham, Alabama. The story is fictitious, but the characters experience the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church as it really happened in 1963. I really related to the main character in this book, who's kind of a goofy kid, and also to the actual devastation of this event that was part of the civil rights movement. It is a middle grade book, but whether you're at that middle grade level, or you have a child at that level, or you're really just interested in the topic, I definitely recommend going to pick this book up. Another of my favorite stories or authors from in this genre is the author Chimanda Ngozi Adichie, who's a Nigerian author. I first started reading her with her book of short stories, The Thing Around Your Neck, and I really loved all of the stories in there. She also has a couple of books, Purple Hibiscus, Half a Yellow Sun, and Americanah. She often writes about the experience of Nigerian immigrants as they come to America, or just experiences of what it was like to live in Nigeria. And she also has a lot of really awesome TED Talks and interviews. I would definitely recommend Googling an interview by her. So on to the books that I'd really like to read, and some of my goal books as far as reading diversely goes. I'd really like to pick up The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I've heard so many good things about this book over the years and have just never picked it up. It's the story of African American women living in Georgia in the 1930s. And I'm told that it kind of addresses issues of class standing for these women and how, the different things they do to overcome that. I also am really excited to start reading Monster by Walter Dean Myers. This is a story of a young African American boy who's put in prison for a crime he didn't commit. It addresses issues of false imprisonment, the over likelihood that young Black men will end up in prison whether they committed the crime or not. And I'm just kind of excited to read a book that's talking so openly about these issues. The final book that I've got on my reading list right now is The Skin I'm In by Sharon G. Flake. This book interests me because it's about a 13-year-old girl who's dealing with self-esteem issues, specifically because of her very dark skin. Not only does it address issues of racism in general, but also with how skin color and the darkness or lightness of skin color can affect someone. So those are just a couple of the books that I'm interested in reading right now. By the way, I'd like to give a shout out to Mac TV. For those of you who don't know, that's how I do my filming. The local access channel in my area, the Mount Pleasant area, has the opportunity for you to take classes and then rent really expensive TV equipment. And today I'm in my parents' badly lit basement because I'm home visiting. So it's not the best lighting, but you might notice that the camera is pretty cool, and that's because Mac TV has generously allowed me to use their equipment. I've been trying to thank them in all my videos, but I just wanted to give them a shout out as well. And with that, I'll just leave you with the request that you post for me some of your favorite African American authors, some more suggestions that I can add to my list, or what you thought of some of the books I talked about. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week.